Just watching TV shows and movies, I just kept seeing these guys doing different things, and I always wondered how they did it. So one day I was at home watching some Saturday morning programs, and there was a program about a stunt school. And so I wrote down the information, and I kept that in hidden away. And then I was in karate, and I was reading in a karate magazine the same stunt school. So I figured, well, that's a good place to start. So I went through that, and from there I did background work, met stunt guys, worked out with stunt guys, and it was just progression into the, getting into the stunts. Yeah, Dick Warlock is a good friend of mine, and he played Michael Myers in one of the Halloweens. And and I know Chris Durand, who also played later on at the same character, right? And Kane Hodder, I know Kane too. So. In the stunt business, is the stunt coordinator usually hires the guys. So I just got a call from the stunt coordinator, and Tony Caesar was his stunt coordinator for many years. He was the stunt coordinator who hired me for Serpent and the Rainbow, the double bill. And then after that, I doubled Peter Berg in Shocker, worked briefly on a number of other Wes Craven movies. And sometimes you work on a movie and you may only work one day, and other times you may be doubling the lead and you may work 2.5 months or even longer. So it was just one day. Tony Caesar, who I'd worked for before, and he worked for Wes, called me up, said, hey, come on up and play this character. And so I just went up and started doing it. Tony just gave a brief explanation over the phone. He says, you'll be wearing a costume and you're a slasher, so come on up and we'll see how it works out. And like I said, somebody else started it, so I just figured that they're trying different people out, and I ended up going the rest of the movie, so that was good. Well, it seemed kind of low tech to me, after wearing prosthetics. Like, I've worn prosthetics to be either an alien or a monster or whatever, and now I get to, it was comfortable. I mean, I liked it. Because it's a lot more comfortable than wearing prosthetics or a mask, or a hood, a full-on hood that they glue on and all that stuff. So I liked it. It was a little difficult to see at times. It did get hot. It got very hot. On the last one, Scream 4, we shot in Michigan, and it was hot and humid when we got there, and we were working in a barn, and you just would not believe the sweat that was, it was all, being withheld, or, it wasn't dripping out because of the mask, but I could feel it just dripping off my face into the mask and then down my chest and stuff. So it definitely got hot. I was just playing it, like I would play it, whether if it was for real. And he would always give me direction, but I don't think it was any specific direction as far as, like how you walk and all that stuff. That was just, I think maybe that's why the first guy got let go, is because of some of his characteristics. I'm not sure. But, as far as playing the character, I don't recall any specific until we got into a scene, and then he'd say, oh, look this way, or this is happening, so do this and do that. So he gave plenty of direction now. How I remember us coming to wiping the blade off is we shot out a sequence, and we were rehearsing the scene, and the scene I was ending up with a bloody knife. And I just mentioned it. I said, hey, it's a direct cut to me running through the hall with a clean knife. And Wes just thought for 2 seconds. He said, well, wipe the knife off on camera. It was as simple as that. But that's how I remember it. I could be wrong, but that's how I remember that. And then the tilting of the head. I was wearing a costume. I was wearing a mask. You have to try to show expression or, emotion or something, with that blank face. So what do you have to do? It's like, it's some body movement, and that's how the head tilt came out. I was in a stab movie in number 2, and then throughout number 4, Nev always puts up the best fight. You know, she's a slippery devil. I still haven't gotten her. You know, I've come close, but I just can't finish her off. So I'd have to say she puts up the best fight. On this last one, Courtney Cox, I was doing a little scene with her, and she thought I played a little rough. So she had a sore wrist, her throat was sore, and then I had her in this one position, and she reacted. She did a great reaction, but on her reaction, she hit her head on the floor, and you could hear it go thunk. After that, she said she was going to stick with comedy. So that was one of the funner ones, was in the garage, you know, chasing her around. So she got me, you know, with the refrigerator door, the freezer door on a refrigerator, and then she was throwing the beer bottles at me, and she got a low blow in one time. That was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, that was fun. I like that scene. That's what makes it, you know. It's like any character, when they're vulnerable, you know, you just relate to him more. So, and he's just a real guy, you know. So the basic description's written, and then we go in, we block it out, and if something doesn't work, then we change it to fit the scene. But it's just blocking, just like you're acting. So the fight scenes were basically that, and a lot of times you do have to change it for various reasons. You know, it doesn't look right for camera. This angle's bad. If we change it this way, then everything else will flow a little bit better. So it's just a normal blocking. Those guys at the end, they were just covered with blood. They were just caked with it. And that stuff gets sticky and it can get hard. Yeah, I didn't envy those guys. They had blood just all over the place. And then this last one, we had a knife that was hooked up to a pumper. So now you talk about a mess. Actually, Wes had requested me for number 3, and I wasn't available. So that was very nice. And lo and behold, he did it again for the 4th. So it was a great, you know, it was just a pleasant surprise.
My father, my mother, my brother, they all do stunts. So just kind of grew up in the family, and, you know, backyard stuff, playing around was actually in a way kind of grooming us without knowing. It was just playtime. So when we finally decided to say, hey, let's give this a try, then everything kind of came pretty naturally, because this was stuff we did in our backyard. So through family is how I pretty much got it. My first gig, I got beat up by Vanilla Ice in a movie called Cool as Ice. It was really cool at the time, because I was a senior in high school, and at the time he was just blowing up, and I was the cool guy to work with Vanilla Ice and everything. And about 6 months later, when he fell off the face of the earth, I was now the dude that got beat up by Vanilla Ice. No, I was really afraid of slasher movies growing up. It was kind of like, you're afraid of it, you want to be a part of something like that, but you're afraid of it. So no, I remember, to this day, I don't think I can still watch Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember my parents watching it, and I just hid behind a pillow the whole time, and just out of fear. And I thought I was being brave by being in the room. When I was working on Scream 3, I was first booked to double David Arquette. And my first day of work, I went into work, and I thought I was doubling David, and only thing I saw in my room was a Ghostface outfit. So I thought, what's going on with this? And they said, you're Ghostface. So I was like, this is awesome. So I think I had a smile from beginning to end on that movie, just being in that face. So it was never an official, like, hey, this is what you are. It was like, show up at work and there it is. So it was nice. And it was I think I was under a little watch and key to make sure I was doing it as well as I should be. It's going to sound odd, but maybe a little confusing, because they had the dog ears hanging off the mask, and there was Velcro and everything hanging off of it. It was just finding out how to get it on perfectly and everything. So, you know, it had a little bit of help and everything, but once you get it on, it was like, okay, I got it, because you have to tie the little dog ears behind there. We put a little a stocking over my face so you couldn't really see the eyes, and just where everything was sit with the hood and the Velcro on the hood and all that stuff. So it's, you have a couple people around you helping you put everything on, making sure it's just right. But it was kind of like maybe for me, like being a football player, going off to the NFL and, you put on the helmet and the pads and everything. It's like, this is something you love. A lot of the sets are dark, or if it's outside, it's dark. Even though you have your lights and everything, it's still dark. You have your nylon over your face. You have the mask over it, so your vision is impaired. So a lot of times with the fight, we really had to work tightly with the actors to make sure that they're aware that I may not be able to see that well. So the distances on punches or wherever I have to grab or whatever like that is it's worked out pretty tediously. And a lot of stuff I'd have to do just go through motions because a lot of time I couldn't see where I was going. So that played in a big part into it. And one side note, and I'm not sure if any of the other guys who had been in the outfit have known this, but you do sweat profusely in this thing, and the chin is a good sweat reservoir. So one time I found out we were in the little Airstream doing the fight in there, and in between takes went to the little bed, sat down. I'm like, we got a few minutes, laid back, all the sweat poured right back on my face and everything, and sat right back up and said, won't be doing that again. So yeah, good sweat reservoir. The first scene was I think Sydney was having a dream in her house, and I come popping up behind the window and come crashing through or slashing through the window, and then she wakes up from it, and that was my first scene. It was pretty good because I think I gave her a little scare, enough to react off of. So, but she's a very friendly person and very easy to get along with. And that was my first interaction with her. And it was great because we had a bunch of fights throughout the whole movie. And she's a real trooper. And she put all her effort into that stuff. I think the only kind of challenges were to make sure that Wes was getting what he wanted out of the look of Ghostface. He's so very nice about everything that he says, and they're very fine-tuned little maneuvers that he'll do. And whether it's just the way you hold your head, the way you kind of look, it may be an odd feeling for you inside the suit, but for the way it comes out on camera is complete magic. But yeah, it could be the way you move the knife, holding the knife a little bit longer, hold it this way, slash down this way, a little more fierceness, or just a way to act with a mask on and get an emotion across with a mask. Just body movements and stuff like that. And can you do it again? I remember they wanted to put a tighter shirt on Leah because he's been working out and everything. And but working out the fight and everything, it was such a tight space that we wanted to try to make it as violent as we can with everything, like having the bookcase fall over, the golf club, of course, across the head and everything. And with the end killing scene of him, I think there were a couple different versions that we did. I believe there was one where he was climbing up through the skylight and ended up bringing him down and killing them that way. Just remember Wes always saying, you can never have enough blood. So there's always blood everywhere. Yeah, Jenny McCarthy, she was gung ho. She's a rock star. She was so willing to do so much stuff for that fight wise, and she did such a good job on it. Pushing the tables after her, pushing the wardrobe cart with her in her and her falling out, going through the window and everything. I think she had a lot of fun. I think she was really up for doing that kind of movie and just playing with it a lot and dying well. Her sister came by on the set one day, and I guess she was deathly afraid of Ghostface, and so she had me come around and scare her. So gave out a nice big scream, and I think that made Jenny's day. Courtney is great. Again, seems like so many of the actors on this show were so willing to be physical and do so much stuff with it, and she put up a good fight. A couple of the hits that she would get me, she was really good on. She stopped my foot pretty good on one of the scenes where she had to stuntman. She did it. And other places do get hit during fights. And I think we both got each other in a couple places, not on purpose, but we did. And yeah, she's a very fun person to work with. I was doubling Deputy Dewey for that scene. The premise was they were all kind of most of the cast was stuck together in a house, and Ghostface is running around the house, and they get a fax. First, I guess he shuts off the lights. Then they get a fax saying, I forget what the fax actually said, but anyway, the premise is you're getting that kind of idea something's going to maybe blow up. So everyone starts rushing out of this house, and the house ends up blowing up, getting destroyed. And as soon as the house blows up, you have Deputy Dewey, Gale, and the Parker Posey jumping over the railing and ensuing into this long fall through the hill in the forest. So what we had to do was basically we had some propane explosions coming up behind us. So we did have an explosion coming up. So it was a countdown of 3, 2, 1. And on 1, the explosion would happen. So we'd have to have our pacing set to be getting, basically starting to get blown over the railing when the explosion happens. So 3, 2, 1, explosion, boom, we go. And I remember the joke was that Deputy Dewey's character got over so fast that he didn't even care about Gale or Parker Posey. So it was kind of funny that I just boom up and over and bail, and it's not even like, hey, help them over or anything. The flip with Dion, that was an interesting one. We had to practice that one for a little while because it was pull a rug out, and instead of normally having someone maybe fall forward with it, it was to get him to do a flip backwards. So we had to get our stunt guy to basically kind of turn around, and when I pull the rug out, he does a backflip, which is a tough thing to get a turn and a backflip all at the same time. So kudos to him. But then after that was fun. Just throwing him into that little casing and everything and tossing him over. I think that was one of my favorite, like, cool looking scenes for myself, just of the sheer, like, power of Ghostface. Boom, throwing him over the edging and just coming over, and that look that he does to the camera and then takes off. That's I think that's one of my favorite little pieces of Ghostface. He can be anywhere at any time, and you just don't know how he gets there. You know it's a person, and it can be any person, but you know in that mask that it's just going to be sheer terror of who that person is, and you just can't get away from him. Somehow he's got this ability to be everywhere, and we just don't know how he does it. And I think that's what makes it kind of scary for everything, and whoever's in it can do these things. Yeah, to have all those squibs on you and knowing you're going to get a couple shots at a time, and to have your body in position to take each hit is a tough thing. And you're basically also waiting for the special effects guy on how fast he goes. So even during rehearsals, you do a countdown of like bang, 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 bang. So you have a kind of a cadence of what it's going to be. But on the day, everything moves around, and it could always be just a little bit quicker, a little bit slower. But everything worked out perfectly on that, and Scott did very well taking those shots perfectly on each one and taking them as a character of all that power and ferociousness that he has in him to go backwards, take the shots, but hit him and then keep going forward. That's a tough one, especially for someone who may not have taken a bunch of shots. I mean, usually one or two, but more than that, it's a tough thing. I've met Scott a few times, worked with him a few times after that, and we get along great and everything. So yes, he takes it off, but everything else, I was in there, and he was there helping me out, kind of telling me what he would want movement wise and everything. So he definitely had a hand in things that I would do also. So between Wes and him and everything, it would all come together. But for that, most of the fight in there, he did a lot of that fight in there, and one little piece that happened with him in the fight is when he gets the ice pick in the back. We have this big stunt vest that we'd wear, like going backwards when he gets shot in the head and everything, all that stuff he's wearing. We put that on him to get stabbed, so Nev could stab him in there, and unfortunately at one of the parts it slipped off of that piece and got him, and he got a little bit of stab. Even though it was a retractable ice pick, he still got a little bit in the back. So the reaction that they used in it is him actually getting it. David Arquette is he's a spark plug. He's a funny guy. I've never seen him mad. So he's just a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to work with. The input that he gives, the ability to discuss stuff with him on it, and when he walks on the set, it just livens up. I think I have to say that about everyone. You know, it is such a family that it's something you don't want to leave. You want to be a part of that family, and it's a lot of fun. I did go back for 4, but I went back to double David. They had Dane Farwell, not doubling, but Dane Farwell as Ghostface, and I think he did some on the second one also. Couldn't be more proud. I am tickled pink to be a part of this whole franchise, whether if it's a little piece of it that I'm in or a bigger piece of it that I was in. I couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier to work with the people that we did. To work with Wes Craven, of all things, is something I can put on my mantle and be proud of, and proud that I've been able to work with him a few times since then, and it's something I'm very happy that I got to do.